Mr. Edit Man presents. Serious. What happened in your this is not a drill moment during work, school etc. I was in the high school gym donating blood when the alarm for an active shooter lockdown went off. The doors were quickly locked and people were told to remain calm and duck under tables, but those of us giving blood and hooked up to the machines had to stay in place. It turned out to be that a few young men had stolen a car and had driven it recklessly onto school property. A police helicopter had somehow gotten involved, which sparked the panic. There were no guns involved, thank goodness, but it definitely was not a good first time donating blood experience. That happened to me too. I was donating blood on the auditorium stage, and it was reported that there was a large fight and one of the students had a gun. We were on lockdown for hours even after the issue was resolved. It turned out to be a very fun breakfast club type day. A bunch of kids who saw each other in the halls but did not really know each other hanging out and having a good time. One day at work there was a huge bang. Not what you want here at a refinery. Site goes into evacuation. Managers running around trying to find out what's happened. Turns out an asphalt truck had exploded next door, rocking our site. Many undies were soiled that day. We were all in psychophysiopatho class when the alarm bell rang. It's a class where the whole lot of us are divided in random 25 people group of students. I did not know any of the people in this group very well, but we were polite to each other. The teacher said no drill was supposed to take place, so we all raced the best we could outside, except I was in crutches at the time, and the building we were in was old and had a lot of stairs. I was lagging behind, getting more and more scared that I would be left alone. Our teacher was already out, and the bulk of the group was far ahead, and I had no friends in here to make sure I was safe. But 4 of my classmates, all girls, noticed I was struggling and doubled back to help me. It could have been any kind of danger. A fire, a dumb bus with a weapon. But they did not hesitate 1 second once they saw me. One of them took my med bag. Another took my crutches. The other 2 put my arms around their shoulders and half pushed me out, half carried me out. I was viewing a traveling exhibit about the Titanic. When you entered the exhibit, you were given a ticket which had the name of an actual person aboard the Titanic. At the end you would get to see if they survived or not. Right as we finished seeing if our person lived or died, the fire alarm went off in the museum. The exhibit staff ushered everyone into the staff area behind the exhibit and down the emergency stairs. Everything was lit with emergency lighting only and really cramped. And after having just been in the exhibit you really felt like you were escaping a sinking ship. Probably the most surreal emergency I have ever experienced. Edit for those asking. Yes, my person did survive. They tried to match your person as close to you as possible. I was a kid at the time, so my person was a child. Much higher chance of surviving if you were a kid or a woman. I was in 10th grade, age 15 for non-Americans, when 9/11 happened. It's hard to explain to those who did not live through it how much the world changed literally in a day, and how while there was internet there were not smartphones or social media, so news traveled less instantaneously. For us, we were called out of class to go to an assembly, and we were all joking around because our school had a way of over dramatizing random admin things that did not really matter. Over we are searching for a new vice principal. Variety. I probably still had a wisecrack grin on my face as the head of school said they all wanted us to be together to hear this news. Then she said the World Trade Center has been attacked, which was where my cousin worked. And I remember the room literally looked different. We were all watching TV screens less than an hour later as the second tower fell. And we got a local breaking news about a plane crash outside Pittsburgh ... which is quite the thing when your school is in Pittsburgh and you think it was heading for us. Because no one knew until many days later where the 4th plane was heading. Heck, we did not even know there were only 4. So yeah, that moment with the World Trade Center has been attacked and how the room looked different, literally and figuratively. I will never forget that. My college dorm had to evacuate because of fire. Some girl was making a toast at 4 AM and the toaster caught fire. No serious damage was caused and firemen came pretty quickly, but being woken up by fire alarms, seeing everybody panicking and then having to wait outside for like 2 hours in December was not fun. Imagine messing up making toast. Kid brought a gun to school. He wanted to show it off and pulled it out at lunch. Yeah, you're not supposed to ducking do that. He got expelled. Was relieved of any actual criminal charges on account of no bullets were brought, and he was so young. But everyone dipped from the lunchroom and all the other classes got locked down. I remember being in class when it happened, and not one of us thought it was real, because our school did a drill every quarter for that malarkey, and it was like midway through one of them. This was 8th grade. 1. Tornado hit our house. We heard the sirens. My dad and I woke up my mom and brother and we barely made it to the basement before it hit. 2. Active shooter outside my job. It was some young kid who was running around and waving a gun around like it was some toy. He tried to get into the store I worked at, but fortunately, I had already locked them because it was closing time. I had my employees hide in the fridge while I called 911. Was showing a documentary to my class about the second week of the semester when the president of the college came on the loudspeaker to tell us to shelter in place. Somebody had tweeted pictures of his gun saying he wanted to light up the library, and when the FBI pinged his phone, he was on my campus. My classroom was directly above the library. We all knew this because of our smartphones. This was right before lunch. I was escorted out of the building around dinner time. Turned out the student was bluffing. He was visiting our campus that day with his high school. Duck him. I was at a movie theater. One of the big ones with 12 screens. Halfway through the movie an alarm goes off and no one really reacts. And then a recorded voice advising that an emergency situation has arisen and we are to vacate the area immediately. 12 screens emptying simultaneously into the foyer created havoc. Some minor crush injuries. People falling and tripping others. It was chaos. Kids screaming. Parents trying to get in to find their kids. 5 minutes later and we are still inching towards the doors. And a real voice comes on and advises it was a false alarm and to go back and they will restart the movies. Important lesson from this for everyone. If you need to evacuate from a movie theater, take the exit near the screen that goes straight out of the building and not the one that goes back to the foyer. On a 225 buoy tender in the middle of the Pacific, halfway between Hawaii and Mexico, when you're on a ship at sea, if there's a fire, there's number 911. So you practice all the time for stuff like fire, flooding, collision, etc. But those drills occur during the day when most of the crew is awake. You're alert. The sun is out, and sea conditions are normally good, for safety reasons. But emergencies almost never happen during the day or when the sea state is calm. It was 4 AM. I was in my rack asleep after getting off watch. So I had only been asleep for 4 hours when the general emergency alarm went off. That's the alarm that sounds for any emergency aside from collision and chemical. So I bolt upright with a what the duck, thinking someone accidentally hit the alarm up on the bridge. But when the watch officer comes over the ship's announcement system saying to set the main space fire doctrine for a fuel oil leak in the engine room, my stomach drops. I'm out of my rack, into my coveralls and boots, and out to the repair locker faster than he can finish the announcement. Most of the crew is already at the locker. The attack team is getting their firefighting gear on. And the engineering officer is trying to get information from the engineering watchstander. The investigators were already gone to investigate the scene. We all get our protective gear on. And I gather my team. I'm in charge of the pump team. And our job is to set up the portable fire pumps to supplement the installed ones in case the water pressure drops. But the pumps are located outside the skin of the ship on the buoy deck. And it's 4 AM in the middle of the ocean. Most people forget just how dark the night is. With artificial lights we have essentially conquered night and claimed it for ourselves, despite our relatively poor night vision in comparison to other species. But when you are days away from any land, and the lookouts need their night vision preserved for their watch, that means it is awfully dark once the sun goes down. Makes for great stargazing though. Anyways, I get permission to start setting up. So my team and I all grab flashlights and head out. It's dark as malarkey, and the pumps are heavy. And all in all it sucked. It sucks during drills and it doubly sucks in the middle of the night. We get the first pump set up and are about to start the second when we get told to wait. I certainly did not complain. I absolutely hate those pumps. We go back into the repair locker to wait. Apparently the leak was not that bad and was able to be secured by the investigators. The cleanup crew heads down to clean up so the fuel does not create a toxic gas environment. And we go to pack the pump back up. There was a general feeling of amusement at the situation. TBH. Also, a lot of pride in our response. We hit all the time requirements, setting up boundaries and such. And as a crew we felt like we did good. The command felt the same way too. Cause the workday was suspended. We only had to go to our watches. The rest of the day could be spent however we wanted. There was a movie being played in the crew's lounge. And some of the guys set up an inflatable pool on the buoy deck to chill in. Me, I went back to sleep. When I was in school, about 20 years ago I think, we had a bomb threat. They evacuated the entire school out to the baseball fields for hours before they let us go home early. The very next day, We went back to school and they kept us locked in our classrooms for hours while the bomb squad removed bomb material. From what I was told from the very baseball fields that they had made us wait on the day before. Reminds me the school I went to where the response to a bomb threat was first to gather everyone in the buses in the front parking lot. Then drove us over to one of the 2 other schools in the town. Same school district. We were in high school. There was also an elementary school and middle school. And put everyone in one of 2 gyms there. A much smaller area compared to the alternatives. I eventually stopped worrying by the logic that if there was actually bombs then whoever set them would have had several opportunities to kill most of us if they were smart about it. Since if they knew the response was to move people to another building then they could have just rigged one of the other schools to blow and had a 50/50 chance of getting the entire population of 2 schools. Or if they did not know that then they still had an excellent opportunity to kill us when everyone was gathered together in the one parking lot rather than spread out over an entire building. That school had a lot of emergency response policies that seemed really stupid. And in later years they overhauled a lot of them. But I feel their response to bomb threats of gathering everyone in 1 or 2 places takes the cake. And I had not heard of them fixing that while I was still attending. Honestly not sure which policy was worse though. Your school's approach of gathering everyone in the fields was also pretty bad, even if it was at least a bit more spread out. I was taking the SAT. We were maybe 30 minutes into the writing section when the fire alarm goes off. Some guy started a fire in the computer lab of the building because he did not bring proper ID and they would not let him take his test. We had to sit outside for 3 hours in silence before they decided never mind you guys, have to retake this in a month. School had a lockdown, was coming back from lunch and saw a bunch of cops. Asked one what's up and was told someone had reported a gun in the building and it's on lockdown. I went home. Found out the next day kid had a BB gun in his backpack and I guess pissed off a friend who then told the office what he had. Side note, the group that kid would run with was known for starting fights with people over nothing. So I guess karma is around itch. Someone ignited a marshmallow in one of the school toilets. That's so random lol. It's true lol. Last period of the day in middle school, we get told over the intercom to remain in our classes. Then another announcement for controlled class by class evacuation. Turns out someone had mailed the school white powder saying it was anthrax, and they were not sure how far it might have spread from the office. The school was closed the next day, and it made the news. But luckily it was not actually anthrax. You have made it until the end of this video. Now listen here, and listen here closely. Like and subscribe for more curated content by Mr. Reddit Man. Thanks for watching.